just met her. What could she have for me?
I don't know, maybe she wants you to sign a picture for the store.
Oh, God.
Should put it behind the register next to the one of Lucy Lawless and the guy that wrote A Stitch in Time.
What if this fan support thing doesn't work?
Well, if you don't get the money, you don't have to produce it.
No. What if people don't want what I'm offering anymore?
Can't believe I'm telling you this, but you gotta roll the dice.
I'm too old for that.
Risk is your business. Well, right now, birthday parties are your business, but why do that when you could be coming up with new stuff for us to buy and to inspire us?
And the show has been funded, thanks to your amazing support, folks. So, with more 12-sided die on the horizon, let's meet one of the stars. Hello and welcome, everybody, to this wonderfully special interview that I have set up with, once again, Curtis. Thank you for joining us, Curtis. And Andy Robinson, aka Elim Garak, but you knew that already, of course. So lovely to have you both here on Off My Bridge, the YouTube show.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Yep, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Guy.
Alrighty, so we are talking about the success, yes, of the Kickstarter for 12-sided die. Now, Curtis, tell us about this. You reached the goal. Is that it?
We have reached the goal. It's definitely not it. We're because we're using that money to complete post-production. But we hit our goal. We hit a stretch goal, and I just checked right now. We just broke the $18,000 mark. So, which is great because we have late pledges enabled, and some people are making late pledges, even $1 or $5, just so they can be updated as we go forward. Because I update the backers pretty frequently. And with all the screenings that we're going to be doing in the next year, they'll be updated. So people are just throwing in $1 or $5 just so they can be sure to be updated on everything we're doing. But we just locked the score as of when this is airing. The score's locked, and it's with the final sound editor to marry all that together and adjust the sound levels. And then it'll be done. So we're very close. Oh yeah, all the perks that were active during the Kickstarter are active now, and we have collectible cards, which I'm a personal fan of, but Tess Fowler, we have a lot of perks dealing with Tess Fowler, who did all the interior art. Cynthia, the character, she's an artist, and I wanted to showcase Cynthia's art, which Tess Fowler, is a comic book illustrator. She's done the D&D comic for IDW. She's drawn the Star Trek comic also for IDW, and her art is anytime you see an interior piece of artwork done by our character Cynthia, it's Tess Fowler's artwork, and I have a lot of her artwork that if you donate to a certain Kickstarter perk, I send you her art.
Okay, so the late pledges is going to be open for a while still. So
at least through GenCon, because that's where our audience is going to be. So at least through the end of July, beginning of August.
Fantastic. Okay, fantastic. So remember, you can go and back that. Links down below. We're going to talk a little bit about GenCon in a little bit, but before we get there, we need to talk about one of the most interesting, dynamic, possibly well created or well fleshed out villains, although I hate using that word, in Star Trek history. And we were actually talking about it this morning, going, the Cardassians, for all of their bits and pieces, are probably the most developed culture in Star Trek. And there was some debate going on because it's like, well, the Klingons got this and the Vulcans got that. It's like, yeah, but the Cardassians have got so many aspects to them. And you don't swing from loving Klingons to hating Klingons to loving Klingons in the same episode as much as I think you do with Cardassians. That's our personal opinion. But obviously, Andy, you have been one of the most influential Cardassians in Star Trek history. What was it like being a Cardassian? Was it any different from the other roles that you've been before and since?
It was obviously completely different in the sense that I've never played an alien before. And I had no idea what a Cardassian was. I didn't know a Cardassian from a Karshmashian. I mean, I had no idea. I mean, it was like, I'd not ever been involved with the Star Trek franchise or even a fan. I mean, not that I didn't like the show or the original series or Next Generation, but I just never watched them. So when I got the job, I kind of had to make this up myself. There were a couple of models that I went to from in the Next Generation. There was episodes with David Warner played a Cardassian. He was, torturing Captain Picard, and of course Mark Alimo was doing Gul Dukat. But there wasn't much there, and there was no information. So it's funny. I mean, that you should ask me this, because this question set off a whole thing in my head. Because as an actor, one of the tools I use is what I call the biography. I create a biography for the character, obviously a fictional biography. And so I started creating this sort of diary about that Garak kept. And as I was doing this concurrently while I was playing the role, doing the show, and the writers wrote so beautifully for Garak, and I so loved playing Garak, and what I found in the playing, that I became more, and I don't want to get too geeky on this, but I got more and more deeply involved with this so-called diary, that it turned into a book. So basically, and the thing about the book is, I had no restrictions as to Cardassians, who they were, to the homeland of Cardassia. I was able to almost 99.9% make up everything. And so, and nobody could fault me on that, because there was no precedent. Whereas if you're writing a novel, a Star Trek novel, you are bound by what is, and they're very strict about that. And it's one of the reasons why I don't write anymore, because after my book, then other people started writing, and now there's a whole load of stuff that that I would be beholden to. But anyway, this all started by me trying to find out how to play this guy and where he came from and so forth.
And I know this was a long time ago, but did the writers not have a fleshed out kind of idea as season 1 kind of rolled into season 2 and season 3? Were they developing and almost collaborating with you in terms of this Cardassian lore, or?
No, it didn't work that way at all. When I first got hired to play Garak Guy, it was a oneer. It was a one-off. I was hired to do this one episode, and it turns out later I found out they were looking for storyline for Siddig, who played Dr. Bashir. And because Siddig did not have any kind of storyline, but I didn't know this. All I thought I was just playing this old geezer who was a tailor, who may have been a spy, and so forth, and who was a very interesting character. And it turned out that when the writers, the producers saw the episode, and saw that Sid and I had a certain amount of chemistry with each other, because we had a great time with each other, then they invited me back. But each time I never knew when I was coming back. I think I did one episode in the first season. I think I did 2 episodes in the second season, and then from there it just kind of grew, because basically, thankfully, as it turns out, the writers started to fall in love with Garak. And when writers fall in love with a character, it's the greatest gift an actor can get, because every time I got a script, almost without exception, I knew it was going to be delicious.
Curtis, what do you think is quintessentially what makes a Cardassian? If you were to say to somebody, you're playing an alien and they're a Cardassian, what would be the features that you hone in on?
I mean, first I would defer to Andy for
right.
as it would be. But
listen, don't you understand? Curtis never saw Deep Space Nine. What the hell are you asking
No,
him
that's
for?
crazy. That's crazy. I've never seen an episode of Star Trek.
Never.
I don't know. I've never seen an
Never.
He's
episode of
gonna
Star
make
Trek.
up
Oh,
some
no.
shit, and then
No, but look, I would again from a fan from a viewer perspective, I would say a quintessential Cardassian is somebody that's passionate and focused. That's what I would say, because it seems like all the Cardassians, even and they're very good at what they do, because that's what they focus on. Even though, unfortunately, it was the occupation of Bajor. But we saw Garak specifically. He was a gardener. He was a great gardener, and then he became a great tailor, and he was also a great spy. And he was everybody. It's almost like a Cardassian doesn't have a sense of humor, because they're so focused on what they do. They're still funny, because the funny comes from them interacting. But I always saw Cardassians as being passionate, either about their family or about what they do. Even who played it was the episode Duet. Eamon Maritza.
Yes.
Harris Yulin.
Harris Yulin, yeah, because
who just died last week.
He just passed away. Yeah. He was passionate about his guilt in that episode, and
That's right.
And he went to great lengths to either excise that guilt or let people know. So that's how I see a Cardassian. Very passionate and then driven to fulfill that passion.
Well, you did watch the show. My God.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Yeah.
That's why you hired me. Wow. No, but I think you're right. I think you're right, Curtis. Yeah. And Harris was wonderful in that. I mean, that character, I mean, he was so guilty that he was willing to, the only way he could expiate his guilt was to die. And so funny, because I was talking to Ira Bear yesterday. He came over to the house about something else, and I was talking about that episode, and he was saying that he and Harris, sort of like had all kinds of fights about the character. And I said, well, whatever happened with those fights, I mean, it really turned out pretty damn good.
And I think also when dealing with creative space, if people are fighting, it means that they're passionate about what they're trying to do.
Well, that's right.
And they're fighting to make it as good as possible. Usually that's kind of how it works, I think. So do you think, Andy, that the Cardassians have any redeemable qualities?
Oh, yes. I mean, the thing is that it's a totalitarian society. They're under the heel of a very strict, almost. But I always compared it to they're more like, I don't want to put down the Germans, but there's something very Germanic about them, and the rigor and the order that they had. But it was, and I think Curtis mentioned this. I mean, they had family values. I mean, family was very, very strong. I mean, this is all the stuff that I made up, I mean, in my book. So I have a very strong idea about Cardassian society, how it's regulated, and regulated to the point where, and the oligarchy, obviously, which we should take this as a warning ourselves, perhaps, that's how things can blow up. Because when you become so arrogant and so powerful and just figure that you can do whatever the hell you want, it comes a cropper. And certainly the Cardassians found that out to their great dismay and sadness.
And if I may, the book A Stitch in Time is an amazing book, and so is your performance, Andy, in reading it, the audiobook.
I had so much fun. It was like playing Garak again. It was really a joy to do that audio. Yeah.
I did want to speak about A Stitch in Time, and I would encourage all of you to go and buy it, unless you live in the UK, where A Stitch in Time currently sits on Amazon in paperback form, at the cost of £150.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yes,
Jesus.
it's a little bit pricey because I thought,
I don't know why they won't do a bloody reprint. I mean, it was a cheap little paperback.
Right.
That doesn't cost them anything.
No, but you can pick it up on Audible, so go and grab your audio.
Yeah,
copy.
no, and I got to tell you, the audio is very satisfying. If you like audios, this was because I loved doing it. It was so much fun.
Well, I mean, that's exactly the joy is being able to listen to Garak reading Garak, because the book is an autobiography, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And does it sort of take us into the future a little bit as well, or was it purely up until Garak arrived at DS9?
Yeah, the thing is, it does take us in the future because the book begins. He starts writing the book because it's after the series has ended and Cardassia has been destroyed in the Dominion War. And so Garak is sitting amidst the rubble of this destruction. It's like, if you were a German sitting in Berlin, in late 1945, and that he makes the choice to stay and to help rebuild. So yeah,
absolutely. And do we get a sense of a little bit of hope?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No question. I mean, because A Stitch in Time it's a takeoff. There's a Hebrew expression called tikkun olam, which means to repair the world, really, and to repair what has been torn apart. And that's what A Stitch in Time is about. It's like, it's about reparation. And that whole, and so that's why when you get to the end, I actually am very happy with the ending, because the ending is earned, and there, Garak, who's a lone wolf kind of person, ends up against all of his instincts and his training and his education, ends up joining basically people who want to rebuild the world.
Talking about live performances and all that kind of stuff, GenCon is coming up, and we spoke very briefly about GenCon. What is happening at GenCon, Curtis?
We screen. I'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We screen Sunday morning at 10 a.m. in the West Inn Capitol Ballroom 3 in Indianapolis, Indiana. I can imagine there'll be a Q&A to follow. There's and I'll be doing a panel on August 2nd about independent filmmaking. So I'll be there doing a panel, and then there's a table that with all the swag and all the 12-sided die stuff and other independent films that'll be there. So I'll have stuff there. But it's going to screen 10 a.m. on Sunday. Eric Vesbit, who plays Eric in the show, who had a bunch of scenes with me and Andy, he will, as of right now, he's scheduled to be there. He works in animation also, so there's obviously a lot of animation there. So he'll, me doing a panel on Saturday, and then the screening on Sunday.
And Curtis, what kind of Cardassian do you think you would be? Would you be the cold, calculating, I don't give a damn type, or is that an emphatic yes?
Yes, I would not mess around.
No.
Nope. I mean, I'm my background is stand-up comedy, so if I'm playing a Cardassian, that's completely the opposite. It's cold, it's calculating, we're here to get the job done and get on to the next job.
You'd still make me laugh, Curtis.
Oh,
You'd still make me laugh.
Shucks.
I wonder.
Yeah, because listen, what was it Robin Williams said? One day asked, he said, "So how many stand-up comedy comics are there in Germany?" And so and it made me laugh because I was thinking the same thing. I wonder how many Cardassian stand-up comics there are.
Oh my gosh, that would be crazy to play a stand-up one.
I can only imagine he would be a very tortured very lonely soul, depending on what
I'm
time.
very.
What's the deal with root beer? It's got the bubbles in it. It's
That's
sweet.
right.
I don't
Oh, my
understand. What? Pick
Oh,
one.
my God.
Bubbles, sweetness. Pick it.
What was it like being brought back, Andy, to play in Lower Decks?
You know, it was weird because there's Garak and Bashir, old married squabbling, and and who's going to take out the trash, and and all of that sort of stuff.
Yes.
And it was cute. It was very sweet. But the stakes are very low
Right.
in terms of me, and I'm just sort of like the guy who's running the show. He says, "Could you give me a little more emphasis on that? Could you do it?" And I say, "Okay, fine, right." So
Yes.
in a sense, it was like it's their show. I just went there as the voice,
Yeah. And did you have any feelings on that whole Bashir Garak thing? Because that's been floating around. They were a married couple, and even in Deep Space Nine, they sort of behaved like that.
Listen, Garak was deeply in love with Bashir. There's no question about it. Deeply in love, and that's why I got the job. Really, why I passed the test in that first episode, as I mentioned, because I saw Siddig, and Siddig was one of the most beautiful men I'd ever seen in my life, and I thought, that's it, man, that's it.
That's why Garak is.
And Garak just fell for him.
Yeah. Well, whether it was the show's intent or not, I don't know. I think the fans certainly said, well, that was absolutely what was going on. So that was
they knew. I'm telling you, that's why I got the job. The fans knew.
Andy, any projects for you coming up in the near future that you want to shout
I
out?
I finished a month or so ago this thing called Spider Noir.
Yes.
It's part of the Spider-Verse, where I did a couple episodes in this first season. With Nick Cage is playing, the spider, the spider in this version of Spider-Man. It's a period piece, takes place in the 30s, and it was great fun. I had a wonderful character and a really good time.
Guys, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I know the fans certainly love it, and I can't wait to see season 2.
Thank you, Guy. I had a great time. Really a pleasure.
Thank you, Guy.
I think it's obvious that I absolutely enjoyed that interview with Andy and Curtis, just as I enjoyed the interview with Tim and Curtis. And the Cardassians are, as we have learned, a very complicated species to portray. When you are playing a Cardassian in one of your Star Trek Adventures 2 games, I think the question that you have to look at is focusing on family, focusing on doing the right thing, and being very earnest about it, and making sure that your character does it to the best of their abilities. That's certainly what's come out of this interview with me. That, and also it's about doing those backstories, looking at where the character comes from, looking at where the character's going, and being open to different types of relationships within the show. I think it's very, very clear that that was something that was subtext. It wasn't even ever overtly said until we got Lower Decks, the relationship between Garak and Bashir. So that's something to look at. Those kind of nuanced little things subtly going on in the background. And, well, there we go. That was Elim Garak, or Andy Robinson, and Curtis from 12-Sided Die. Links all down below. Remember, financial security before gaming, but if you can, and if you want to, go and back the Kickstarter late pledge, and you can get all of those wonderful rewards that Curtis was talking about beforehand. Next week, we continue with our how-to, and it is the last in the how-to series, and it's how to be the captain. And I think you'll find that it's a little bit more nuanced than at first it appeared to be. Anyway, thank you for your support. Remember, you can join the Patreon. That's patreon.com/greatgamemaster, and receive all sorts of little tidbits, bits and bobs, and all of the other things that go into making Star Trek Adventures 2 just so cool.
I didn't murder the Romulan senator. I was merely a gardener on Romulus. But between you and me, I'd look behind the like button. You'd be amazed at what you'd find.
Who are we to argue with such a talented gardener? Until next week, then, all I have to say is...
live long and happy gaming.
Or at least, a very famous Vulcan needs to say it. Goodbye.